Well, hey, and welcome to the Becoming Better podcast. My name's Nate, and I'm so glad you're here. Well, on today's episode, Josh and I sit down and we discuss weather and talk about some of the crazy places that people live. After that, we jump into talking about Sunday's message and discussing Josh's message. If you haven't listened to that yet, then I want to encourage you to stop here and give that a listen, as that will help make this conversation make more sense to you. Well, to find out what else is happening around campus, you can go to www.quadcity.church/events. You can find out everything happening around campus this week. Well, without further ado, we hope you enjoy this conversation. Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
It's cold. Not cold. Cold is the wrong word, but it's gray and rainy.
It's gray and raining, yeah.
So Midwest people are probably just feeling like they're back at home.
Yep. My sister's in Washington, and she says this is how it's like most of the time. So I send her pictures, and she's like, yeah, that looks like my backyard.
So randomly, there was a lady here yesterday who I was introduced to. She mentioned that she was from the Washington area. And I was like, oh, probably really rainy. She goes, no, not where I live in Washington. She lives in Spokane, which is where the University of Washington is.
Yep.
And I know this because Arizona plays sports against them all the time.
Yeah.
But she said that that's a misnomer, that it doesn't rain in Spokane, maybe.
Interesting.
That's more Seattle.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I've never been.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's what everybody says, though.
Yep.
It's a pretty common, it's Washington, rain.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they're 30 minutes from Seattle. So they're pretty close to.
So, yeah, there you go.
So,
that would hold to what she was saying, that area is a little more rainy.
Interesting. So good to know that it's not all just like
no,
that.
not all. Because I'm like, everybody's like, you should go visit Washington. I'm like, I don't want to visit somewhere that's raining all day. That sounds like no fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care for the rain.
Yeah.
So,
and we're not built for it. Like,
not here.
Like me and you, we don't have all the rain jackets.
I have one.
My rain jacket gets a little wet and it's like soaked through.
I have one rain jacket. I have a nice one because I did live when I moved back to Kentucky. I had to get a rain jacket. So, for some reason, I thought Louisiana, it didn't rain. So I never had a rain jacket moving down there.
Yeah.
It rains a lot in Louisiana, let me tell you. And it floods pretty quick.
I was going to say, because you guys get all the...
below sea level rain.
Yeah, baby. The tropical storms coming through.
Yeah, everything passes through. So, I don't know, in my mind, when I was moving down there, I was like, oh, it doesn't rain down here.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, there's a lot of moisture.
Yep.
And then here, I knew that it would be like monsoon season.
Yeah.
But... there's not as much.
No, it's been pretty. Yeah, the last few monsoons, I feel like since you've gotten here, it's been like we've all tried to prepare you for like the monsoon.
I know all about it though. Like being in Phoenix was great because it was usually like 1:00.
Yep.
When I was a kid, you knew it was like, crap, man. All right, after lunch, probably got to wait for just a minute. And then, like, you'd open the door. Remember in the summer, you'd open the door and you'd see, like, the steam just rising off the road after the rain. It was so hot.
Yep. So
that's what I remember as a kid. Like, okay, there's a little spurt in the day that I can't be outside.
Exactly.
It's just going to pour. They didn't make it cooler.
No, not at all.
It wasn't like the rain cooled it down.
Yeah.
It just revealed how hot it was.
Yep. So, crazy monsoon story. So, when I was like 10, we had this huge monsoon come through and it straight up ripped our backyard, the fence. So like our whole backyard fence was gone the next morning. So I remember losing power and just like sitting in my bedroom, just like thinking the whole house is going to like fly off.
Oh,
and then woke up, fence is gone, trees are ripped out. I'm like, what happened?
That's what people in Kansas regularly feel.
Oh yeah,
and they still live there.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing.
They choose to live in areas where houses are being removed by the wind.
Yep.
And these things we call tornadoes.
You guys are crazy.
They are. They are. And I know many of them.
Yeah.
Many people who live in Kansas or have lived in Kansas.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, they all do live here now, which seems like a wise choice.
Yeah,
but
makes sense.
They go visit there sometimes. And I All I know is when we were moving, I'm probably told this, but when we were moving to church plant, it was like Louisiana, New Mexico, Texas, Kansas. Those were the options.
Yeah.
Really quickly, Kansas got booted off that list. Dad was like, nah, we're not living in Kansas. Like, we hadn't even been to New Mexico, or like I had been to New Mexico, Louisiana. We hadn't been to any of them.
Yeah.
And it was like, I know we can't move to Kansas.
Yep.
Because it's just cornfields and tornadoes.
Yep.
Like,
the crazy thing is the fact that, on your to-do list is like prepare storm shelter.
Yeah. It's like people who live in Florida.
Yeah. Well,
like,
really?
For hurricanes? Yeah.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Like
I guess that's true. Hurricane. Yeah.
They're like, oh, yeah, this is my fifth hurricane, last 6 years. I'm like, man, you get to choose where you live.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part, most people, you can kind of move to other places that it may not be as bad. And they're like, nope, we're gonna
stay here.
We're gonna bury down the hatches, baby, and just see what happens. Yeah. The boys were really excited to find out that Arizona has no tornadoes. Yeah. they had this deathly fear of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I don't know why. Like, Louisiana had a couple that were. Kentucky, same way where we lived. Maybe you'd have a tornado warning, but like nothing. We've never been in an area where it's like Kansas or Missouri or something like that. But for some reason, they have this just overwhelming fear of a tornado.
Interesting.
And I'm like, so when we moved here, I was like, no, boys, no tornado. And then like we were not here maybe 6 months, and there was a tornado warning.
Yep.
Like randomly, like in Chino or something. And I was like, oh, I've lied.
I've lied. Like, hopefully they haven't heard.
I've lied to my children. What do we do? Yeah. So, but there's really not any.
Yeah.
I think in the desert.
No.
Which is nice. But today it's gray and a little rainy.
Yep.
I've drank more cups of coffee today than normal, probably.
Isn't it crazy how when it's like cloudy, you just get a little more tired and you're just like, I could just go home and
I could go right
to bed.
Yeah. Right home into bed.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Well, if you haven't noticed, it's just me and Josh today.
Me and Nate today hanging out.
So
nobody likes us on our team.
It's the weather. Honestly, people are weird. So, but jumping in, Josh, to your message, I thought great message and just a great weekend overall. The thing that kind of stood out to me was really the last point that you made of, don't forget who we follow. And so you made this in the beginning, don't forget who we follow, and then don't forget what's at stake. But then you added in the little sublines of don't forget who we follow, Jesus Christ, raised from the dead, descended from David, and then don't forget what's at stake, that they too may obtain the salvation that is in Christ Jesus. And I think for a lot of us, we just hear so much noise from, social media, from work, from even like taking that out of it, but even with like just kids and, the lives we're living,
right,
that it is so easy for us to just forget and become complacent of, we have everything else on our to-do list, our weeks get filled up and it's like, oh no, we have to remind ourselves that all that is great, but we're still on mission and we still have a calling on our lives. So I think it was just an awesome reminder of what the gospel is. And I think you did a good job kind of showing that to all of us. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was fun. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was fun. A fun weekend, get to tell people about Jesus. Always, feel like that's what I joke all the time. I'm like kind of like a one-trick pony, man. That's what I got.
Yeah.
I get excited to tell people about Jesus. Yep. And so any sermon that I just get to do that, it's always a fun thing. But, trying to teach people, again, we see words in the Bible, and if you study the Bible, you know them, but like descendant of David is an entire thread of a messianic king that would have come, and it started in Samuel, and then it works its way through the kings, and that's why when Jesus shows up, they're like, "Nah, this is not the Messiah.
Yep,
this is not the King." That's why literally in Acts chapter 1, when Jesus is about to ascend to heaven, they're like, "Hey, when are you gonna do that thing and make this kingdom, establish our rule?"
Yep,
and Jesus is like, "That's not what I'm doing. I'm not doing it in a physical sense.
Yeah,
like." Jerusalem and Israel is not going to be in charge. No, like I'm doing that with God's people.
Yep.
And it's going to span all nations. And so, again, Paul would have wrote Descendant of David, and a Jewish person would have went, oh, yep, I know what that is. And even, Timothy, I think for sure would have known. He hung out with Paul. So they just knew the story of God. And so to be able for us to understand that those two phrases were bigger than just throwaways, like, oh, raised from the dead. No, like when he says raised from the dead, he's talking about the entire gospel of what, all the good news.
Yeah.
That he came, that he was born, that he lived, that he was falsely, tried, that he was killed on a cross, and then he was resurrected. Like it's all of that in one 4-word phrase. That's what Paul means, so he means all those things. So, yeah. And then, definitely trying to just make it personal at the end. Like I think in my mind, having pictures of people or maybe people not yet have born, I don't know. Because what I thought of was the Lorenko video from a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like the 4 generations of faith.
Yep.
Dude, there are people in that who just endured.
Yeah.
Like we heard a little bit about that, but for sure in their story, there were family members who endured and fought the good fight. And there's 2 generations later reading their Bible, following Jesus, serving the church.
Yeah.
So in my mind, that's what I'm thinking of. Like I clearly can see like my sons and wife are in there, and I'm called to endure for them, but they're gonna have kids, and people, and like our endurance now impacts what they may have a story of faith of. And so, but like having that in your head when you're ready to throw in the towel and quit makes it so much more real.
Yeah,
that it doesn't just impact me. And one of the things we talked about in our sermon planning was even trying to make that more personal. I just didn't have like the time, and I would have to teased it out just too much. But there are stuff that you're suffering through right now. Like you and Sarah, whatever it may be, right? And sometimes it's maybe it's a marriage or it's a financial struggle. I mean, there's all kinds of things we've been asked to endure that isn't what Paul endured.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's not I've not been shipwrecked.
No.
I actually don't like to get on boats typically. I do, but this ended bad for my people.
Yeah.
So, like I just typically don't get on boats.
Yeah.
I can swim. So before any of you are asking me, I'm a good swimmer. Thank you. But like I'm not experiencing that.
Yeah.
I haven't gone to prison for my faith. I'm not saying I won't, but as it stands right now, probably not.
Yeah.
I know pastors in other parts of the world though that's a very common thing. They're beaten and flogged, and they stand back up and preach the gospel.
Yeah.
Their families are threatened. So trying to figure out like, hey, for us, what is the things that we are called to suffer through and endure, so that someone, or my kids, my grandkids, my neighbors, my friends, my ones, all the my coworkers, whatever it may be, that they would obtain salvation. Again, and not that we save people.
Yeah.
I don't think Paul had that illusion. He didn't say, but that he was willing to endure all that so that he could tell people that they had an opportunity to respond to the message. So I think it's just a cool, 4 or 5 verses to be able to chat through, be able to talk about.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a little bit of what you wanted to kind of add in. Is there anything else that you would have?
What's interesting? Yeah. So probably, so verse 13 is if we are faithless, he will remain faithful, for he cannot disown himself. You first read it, and when I was just first studying it, when you read through the whole like hymn or creed or whatever you want to call it, you get to that place and it feels out of place.
Yeah.
And I think it just feels out of place, really, honestly, if I'm being honest, because I don't want that to be true. Like I wanted to read that if I'm faithless, he's faithful and he won't disown me. Like that's what I want to read it as. I want to read it as like, oh, it's no big deal. If I have a life completely devoid of faith, even if I one time said that prayer and asked Jesus in my heart, I'm good to go.
Yep.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, like as I studied and just tried to navigate through, that's what a lot of people say with it. It's it. It's like, oh yeah, man, no big deal. Once saved, always saved. And I'm like, as I was just studying, I was like, I don't even know how that if you just leave it in context, the verse before it just literally says he will disown us. And so I know we've probably heard sermons and people have probably read that, and we've read it in the, oh yeah, once I'm saved, I'm always saved. And I'm just studying through there going, oh man, that's not what it says. It says if I live without faith, he will remain faithful, but not in the way I think is good. He's going to keep his promise. And his promises in the Bible are that there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth for those who disobey and walk away and shipwreck their faith and disown it. Like there's all of these. And again, we hear promises and always think good. Like God has a lot of promises in his word that are very real promises of judgment for those who do not follow and do not endure to the end. And so again, that was the part that, again, if I could have spent even more time, I feel like I tried to spend enough, but even more time, because that's what even as I studied it, wrestled with to go, I don't know if I've ever heard it taught in the context of what it actually says. I've heard it taught the other way. Like, oh, hey man, Nate, if you're faithless, don't worry about it. Not to say that we don't have those moments where our faith is just, I have a tattoo that says keep the faith. And the irony of the tattoo is I got it when I had probably zero faith. If I would have put it on a meter, it was like 0.01 amount of faith, but it's tattooed on me. And it is the reminder when I see it of like, man, God kept chasing after me and chasing after me and chasing after me. But I eventually had to respond to that. I had to respond to his beckonings and callings. And I had to choose to step back into a life of faith. And even since then, there's been moments and days that it's like, I feel like my faith is barely there. Right. But I usually thus far have come back to a life of faith and trust and surrender and obedience. But again, so I don't want people to hear like, oh, I can never doubt or I can never struggle. I mean, I think you would say, right? We all have that. Like that's it's a part of faith. But I wanted people to walk away hearing the end of the day, it's a life without faith. And if that is the life you choose, then what God will then do is be faithful to his warnings. And Psalmist talks about he can't deny himself. He can't deny. Again, and I'm not God. Like that's like, even though I identify with Jesus and his death is my, like all that stuff, all those promises, I'm not God. I am not him. So like he can disown me because I'm not perfection. He is. You know what I mean? So like just trying to help people understand that and read that verse in that context. And not, again, I'm not like a hellfire and brimstone Southern Baptist preacher, but there are very real warnings. And like it should make us be like, whew, okay. And again, like David said last week, up church, it's not grit your teeth and try harder though. It's like lean into Jesus. And like I wanted to say that too during the message. I said that at one point, but it was like, hey, it's not grit your teeth. It's remember Jesus. It's lean into him. It's work through the Spirit. It's ask the Spirit to help you persevere and keep fighting and keep going. And so there is this battle that I do play a part of it, but God has given me the tools needed to keep fighting. I guess. So
and it's interesting taking that verse out of context, because even in Romans, where in chapter 11, where he's talking about, the Gentiles being grafted in and then answering the question of, you're grafted in, but something had to be removed to graft you in. Like if he'll graft you in, he'll also take you out. So it doesn't go like listening to that part in Romans. It's like, how can you take that out of context over here in Timothy think that we're good?
Again, Romans is like, Paul's like, don't get big, don't get too big for your britches. If you don't keep doing this, as just like he put you in, it's like your moms used to say, right?
I brought you into this world. I'll take you out. Oh man.
I think I haven't said that yet. I just think I've caught myself a couple times being ready to say that. I do be like, Because I said so.
Yeah,
That's why.
yep.
Because I said so.
Yep.
But I have not said that line. But that's exactly what Paul's looking at the Gentiles like. Oh, don't get too big for your britches. You too have to endure. You too have to finish. And God will do what God does. And so, it is. But that's because I wanted to say that.
Yeah.
That's what I want, man.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that all I have to do is say the prayer and get in the water in one time, and then I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want to say.
Yeah.
My flesh wants that.
Yeah.
That's why I know we struggle with that verse, because our flesh would always just be like, oh yeah, it's the easy route.
Yep.
You know? And so trying to like give like real room for people to process through that. And even the disown part, you know, it's not loud.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's not like we're standing on the beach like those martyrs and it's like disown Jesus or we're beheading you, and they stay silent, and that's not what we do.
No.
And it really is the one that I landed on the most was I think we're terrified that Jesus may not actually be enough. And so I can't go all in.
Yeah.
Because if I don't really believe he's enough, then I got to hold back a little.
Yeah.
Like I got to, save a little bit for me. And, so I think at the end of the day, I look at people, it's just like, what if it's like they wonder, like, what if it's just not enough, man? So it's like, so we just slowly slide away. And then what happens is you just, before long, you have no relationship at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's the slow, subtle walk away. Very few people, I try to think about that. Very few people that I know, like it was like following Jesus one day, next day they quit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like like literally as I was writing this going like, do I know anybody who's just like woke up today and went, I'm done with the Jesus thing.
Yep.
Even in my own life, and like back in my own past, I'm like, I don't know. It was like a slow, subtle, quiet walk away.
Yeah. It's, 4 months down the line, you're like, wait, what happened to What happened to JR? What happened to Junior? So I totally agree. And I think that's where it kind of hurts as we're thinking about those people. And when we're a few months down the line and we're like, oh, what happened to this person? And it's one of those things that for me personally, it's like, oh man, like what happened? And realizing and knowing that it wasn't this like drastic the next day, that there were signs on the walls of like, oh, he or she's not good.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that's also a great like encouragement of like checking in and just like connecting with the body.
Absolutely.
Because that's how we're able to, and it goes back to David Upchurch's whole message of like, you can't run right now, then walk. You can't walk, then just sit in my lap.
Yep.
And such a good tie-in to all of that. So
there's a girl, Pastor Tony came up to me and we were just chatting, and we kind of got into the talk of like, so for those people who have walked away, when is it too far? And I said, we've talked about that on the podcast. Actually, is like, my belief is as long as they have breath in their lungs, nobody's too far gone. I tied it back into that the First Timothy chapter 1. When Paul tells his story, and Jason, we had the story of Chance, and we shared that story, and we shared the story of Paul, and Jason went through all those details of who Paul was. And again, his line in there that always stands out to me as I think about it is, up to that point, there was no greater enemy of God than the Apostle Paul.
Yeah.
Yet God rescued and redeemed him, and the point is, if he can save him, God can save anybody.
Yeah.
And so again, those people that we do know that have walked away and we go, they're not going to change.
Yeah.
They're too far gone.
Yeah.
Like, no. Like God's power is beyond what we believe can happen.
Yep.
He raises people from the dead. And so even if you're sitting there and you're thinking of those people that have like, man, they've walked away. It's too far. It's been too long.
Yeah.
But God can still redeem them and rescue them. And maybe my endurance is one of the things that God will use to bring them back. And so that's the beautiful picture of what the gospel is really all about. And so, even with its warnings, there's still hope in it.
Yeah.
But it was because again, I understand like, hey, you feel for those people.
Yeah.
But you love them. And you're like, man, I would do anything so that they could hear. But in the back of your mind, you're like, I don't know if it would matter.
Yeah.
Not them.
Yeah.
So you hear the story of Paul and go, oh yeah, that's right. So all of this connects and threads together. We just have sermons that, come, that was like 4 months ago.
Yep, exactly.
Right. So it's hard to tether all that together in your mind. And so without, remembering all of it or writing it, that's why it's good to try to, think back to be like, oh yeah. Paul talked about this elsewhere.
Yeah.
Right? The Roman stuff.
Yep.
Oh yeah. That's right. We studied through Romans 2 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yep, exactly.
We studied through Romans 2 years ago. You know what I mean? And so, but you just forget that as people. And so, but all of it kind of fits together.
Yep.
And it helps tell a big, overarching narrative of Scripture.
Yeah. And I think the cool thing is just seeing, I love Paul, and I think everybody loves Paul for this reason of, he says, when I'm with the Gentiles, I speak like the Gentiles. When I'm with the Jews, I speak like the Jews. And, he's able to reach out to all these different churches, and the message is the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so cool, especially just thinking through, Timothy and Romans and Acts and just all these other books of the Bible, and how you just see his heart in everything he's written, which is so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we jump into our questions?
No, man, I think that's it, dude.
Okay.
I think we got a question, so I'm excited to answer it.
Yeah. So, John, thanks for sending this in. He says, "Hi guys. First, I commend our entire Quad City Church staff, whether seen or unseen. Your willingness to lead by example during Pastor Jason's absence has not gone unnoticed. Your love for our church family is evident by your availability and care for us. Thanks." And then he says, 1 Peter 5:2 says, "Be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care, watching over them, not because you must, but because you're willing, as God wants you to be, not pursuing dishonest gain, but eager to serve." And then he says, his question is, Pastor Josh was explaining and giving examples in 2 Corinthians 11:23-28, how Paul endured many trials for the glorification of the gospel. Please explain further how Paul was persecuted by fellow Jews and Gentiles. Thank you, John G.
First off, let me just say, John, thanks for just shouting out our team. So one of the roles I get to do, I get to lead our team. And so I'm with you. There's a lot of work that they do behind the scenes that nobody sees. A lot of hours spent making stuff right, little things to big things. And so for sure, my job, as Jason has been gone, it's not really changed at all. There's been a few more conversations than maybe I've been in, but honestly, it's not changed a ton. And really that's because the team has stepped up and done those things. And so, John, I am with you. They have done just an amazing job during Jason's absence that allowed him, I think, the ability to just rest and recover and just hang out and go to church like a normal person goes to church and leave like a normal person leaves. And one of our core values our cultural values as a staff is, pastor is a verb, not just a noun. So that verse that he used is one of the ones we use.
Yeah. That
we want to be willing to shepherd God's flock, not out of compulsion. Like that's not the thing. That's not what we want to be about. And so we want to do it because we love people and love serving people, even when it's really hard. Like David said, what's the best thing about ministry? People. What's the worst thing about ministry? People. Right?
Yeah.
Again. And I'm a part of that people.
Yeah.
Like I'm a difficult person, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm a part of the problem. I recognize that. But one of our cultural values is we actually want to be available. We want to pastor people, and we want it to be a verb, an action. And so I love that other people notice that. I mean, that's the heartbeat of what we talk about a lot.
Yeah.
So Jason's, since I've been here, has been beating that drum. We finally put it into language and codified it. And so, it is a thing we say all the time. And so, John, I'm with you. I think our team does a great job. So thanks for noticing that and allowing me to shout that out as well. So to answer your question, where does Paul also talk more about essentially what he went through? And so it's interesting. Actually, in one of the sermons that we've already had in this series, week 5. So when Paul is visiting the elders in Miletus. Jason actually talked about this. So I'm going to reference back into his sermon, and I'll share a few more other places where Paul talks about some of his interactions, so to speak, with the church. So in Acts chapter 20, that's when Paul's going to visit the church in Miletus. It's verse 19. Paul is talking to him. He says he's talking to this group of elders that he's called to the city because he doesn't want to go back to Ephesus, because he knows if he goes back to Ephesus, he's going to get stuck. And he's like, so just go get them and bring them to me. So he calls for them. They meet. Literally, Miletus is right by the water in Turkey. And so it's like a little port, and then I kind of pull in there. But anyways, verse 19, Paul says, Acts chapter 20, I served the Lord with great humility and with tears, and in the midst of severe testing by the plots of my Jewish opponents. And so we don't get we just get that sentence, and we don't get any more. We just go, oh, well, there was severe testing. And then Jason, in his sermon, tried to actually give us some of that. He gave us some of the background of what is Paul talking about, because Paul references it, his time in Ephesus and other places. So another time in Acts 19, this is all the Jewish ones, Acts 19:9. But some of the Jews became obstinate, and they refused to believe and publicly maligned the way. So again, you have this group of Jews, Paul's preaching, and they're going against the way. And remember, when we talked about the way is always, at least when we see that in the New Testament, it's capitalized because that's what the followers of Jesus were first known as. They weren't known as Christians until Antioch. It actually talks about that in Acts, I think Acts 8 or 9. It says, the first place they were known or called Christians is Antioch. I think it's 8 or 9. But anyway, so Acts 19:9, it says, so we have Jews. They are publicly opposing the followers of Jesus, which obviously Paul would have been included in. And again, it doesn't sound great, but as Jason said, it's not severe testing. But in 2 Corinthians, we actually learn a little bit more to the story. 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 8 and 9, Paul says, we don't want you to be uninformed, brothers and sisters, about the troubles we experienced in the province of Asia. So again, just remember, when when we hear Asia, what we hear is literally Ephesus, Turkey, modern day Turkey for us. That was all of Asia. And really the capital of that was Ephesus. That was the major city at the time. And so when he says we experienced troubles in Asia, it means I experienced trouble from the people in Ephesus. That's what he's talking about. He keeps going in verse 8. He says, we were under great pressure, far beyond our ability to endure, so that we despaired of life itself. Indeed, we felt we had received the sentence of death. And so Paul, to the church in Corinth, is sharing about his time in Ephesus, saying, man, it was so bad. It was like we got the death sentence.
Yeah.
Right? So when Paul is saying I was in danger from Jews and Gentiles, and danger at the sea, and danger in the city, and danger in the country for my fellow countrymen, you know what I mean? That's what he's talking about. Specifically too, just with his time in Asia. And then later in 1 Corinthians, he writes, 1 Corinthians 15:32, he says, if I fought wild beasts in Ephesus with no more than human hopes, what have I gained? Paul said, it was so bad. It was like I was fighting wild beasts.
Yep.
These people were just terrible and awful to him. And so we hear these moments throughout the stories. And again, that's the piece of it that's so hard for us as sometimes Christians who struggle to put the whole pieces together.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I really appreciated, Jason spent, and this was just a half of a page, trying to connect dots and tether things together for us, because you hear Paul talk about that in 2 Corinthians chapter 11 about what he went through, and you're like, man, where is that? And it's just in pieces, because that's how you tell history. You don't tell the whole story all at once, right? And that's not the point of the Bible. I was actually talking to John about that. The point of the Bible is not to write a history book.
Yeah.
It was letters that encouraged the churches, that dealt with specific issues, that Acts kind of tells the story. But even that, leaves out some of it. We don't get all of it, and so it's hard for us because our brains, we all went to school and we got history books, and we went from 1700 to 1800, we got like the whole download of history.
Yeah.
That's not what the Bible is. It's not its intention. And so you have to kind of put pieces together and do some of those things. And so that's some of the examples. A few of the other examples is in when we talked about in Ephesus, there was that giant riot, Ephesus chapter 20, 19 to 20, I believe, right? There's a giant riot. There's the silversmith Demetrius. He literally causes a riot because Paul is, taking money away from him. So he causes a whole uproar. Remember, they grab Paul's friend and they drag him into the theater. And this is not a small theater, it's massive, right? Again, that was the Gentiles. Like Paul began to impact their way of life, making money. So they have an entire riot in the city of Ephesus. Thousands of people, right? And they guard great as Artemis of the Ephesians. And they're just over and over. Again, when Paul says, I've been in danger, he had to have had like that in mind. That wasn't probably like there was this one time they drug all my friends. I think one of them was like Alexander or Jason Alexander, whatever his name.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that poor guy. They just shoved him up to the front, like, you talk.
Yep.
And they're like begging Paul, please don't go. Don't walk into the theater.
Yep.
You're just going to make it worse. And Paul's like chomping at the bits to get in, like, kid me. I got this moment. Let me talk to all these people. So then in Acts 21, starting like at verse 27, the Jews from Asia stirred up the whole crowd. Paul's in the temple preaching, and they and it's the agitators from Ephesus. They had followed him all the way back to Jerusalem, and Paul is preaching. And so they literally, he said, the 7 days have complete. I'll read the over. Said when the 7 days were almost complete, the Jews from Asia, seeing him in the temple, stirred up the whole crowd and laid hands on him, crying out, "This is the man who is teaching everyone everywhere against the people and the law in this place. Moreover, he even brought Greeks into the temple and has defiled this holy place." Then the Roman soldiers get involved and Paul gets arrested. So Luke shares this in Acts, but Paul kind of talks about his agitators from the city of Ephesus, essentially, again, Asia. They followed him all the way back and just watched him, just waiting, plotting, he gonna mess up. I got him. And so that's what we see, John. So there's a few just quick ones, Acts tells him most of the story, but again, Paul's writings, he talks about it in Galatians a couple times, his agitators that kind of bothered him. Corinthians, he talks about it. So there are a few. He's going to talk about one person in particular when we get to chapter 4 of 2 Timothy. There was a goldsmith or a coppersmith. I can't remember what it was now. I was just reading it today, but I think his name is Alexander. But anyways, he's going to mention, because we don't always get names, but he actually mentions a guy in 2 Timothy who seemed to give Paul quite a bit of trouble.
Yeah.
And so we're going to hear the list of that. So for sure, there's a ton of different references throughout your New Testament where Paul kind of shares a little bit of the things that he went through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. There you go.
So good. Awesome, man. Well, I think that's where we'll end it today.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening, and we hope you guys have a good week. We'll talk to you soon.